Welcome back. I am a broadcast journalist that's worked at some fancy broadcast news companies so you can take me seriously, whatever pretentious nonsense people start videos with. I want to analyze today the Tucker Carlson interview between him and Bill Nye the Science Guy because I think it's such an important and fascinating clip to understand what we're watching. Media Literacy 101. So I'm going to go through it, let's go through it, and kind of analyze Tucker Carlson's various techniques that he employs throughout the interview to make us as a viewer keep watching. And I'm not going to draw too many conclusions about whose opinion is right or wrong. I'm less interested in that. I'm more interested in the means. Does that make sense? Fascinated by the means, less interested in the ends. I know, it's a change of pace from most of the things that people put out on YouTube. Let's go ahead and watch it, and we'll dissect it and see what makes this interview so fascinating.
Well, Bill Nye the Science Guy is now aspiring to a new title, Bill Nye the Psychoanalyst Guy. During a Facebook Live event with Senator Bernie Sanders today, the mechanical engineer and TV personality said, skeptics of global warming suffer from the psychological delusion of cognitive dissonance. Is that the choice? Bellevue or Nuremberg? Bill Nye joins us now. Bill, it's great to see you. That doesn't sound like science to me, Bill Nye the Science Guy. That sounds like something very different.
So cognitive dissonance.
Tucker Carlson did not ask a question here. So we've opened the interview and Bill Nye goes ahead and responds to something that Tucker Carlson did not ask. Tucker Carlson states an opinion. Let's keep watching.
It's not a delusion, it's a feature. It's human nature. So we in the science community are looking for an explanation why.
Then before the name calling begins and before you try to end the conversation, let's start it by asking what exactly you mean. Now, I think most people are open to the idea that the climate is changing. It has always changed, by the way, as you know.
It's the rate, Mr. Carlson. It's the rate that's such a concern.
The core question, from what I can tell, is why the change? Is it part of the endless cycle of climate change, or is human activity causing it? That seems to be the debate to me, and it seems an open question, not a settled question, to what degree human activity is causing that. Is that not an open question?
It's not an open question.
Okay, we actually get to a first real question here. To what degree is humans contributing to climate change? That is the question Tucker Carlson is trying to ask Bill Nye the Science Guy, although it took him about 30 seconds to get that question out. How does Bill Nye respond?
It's a settled question. Human activity is causing climate change.
To what degree?
That's a good follow-up because Tucker Carlson actually did not ask whether humans are causing climate change. He's asking how much they are accelerating climate change or contributing to climate change. Let's keep watching.
To a degree that it's a very serious problem in the next few decades.
Wait, stop. Wait, no, you said it's a settled point, and I'm asking a very precise question.
It's a settled point.
Okay, then if you'll elucidate it for me, I'd be grateful. To what degree is climate change caused by human activity? Is 100% of climate change is caused by human activity? Is it 74.3%? It's settled science. Please tell us to what degree human activity is.
This is a pretty good follow-up question by Tucker Carlson. Now, granted, we're still stuck on the first question here, but Tucker Carlson does have a point under the umbrella of journalism and asking precise, specific questions and establishing basic facts. So when you have a debate with somebody, you want to establish first principles or basic facts that you agree on, and then work up to the point where you guys don't agree. And he's asking a very specific question: to what acceleration rate, or what's the multiplier effect humans have on the rate of climate change? And this is an important question because of something called effect size. In science and statistics in particular, it can sometimes be easy to determine your p-value, which is your likelihood that there is a causatory effect, disproves the null hypothesis. And that's how science is practiced. It's always the burden of proof is on you. You operate under the null hypothesis that there is no correlation causation between X and Y variables. And the p-value is a likelihood that there is indeed a causatory effect on the variable. In this case, the p-value would say that indeed humans are contributing to climate change. Great. The more important question in science and statistics is what is the effect size? Given that we now can conclude that humans are contributing to climate change, what is the effect they're having? Are they contributing to climate change by 1 degree Celsius, by half a degree Celsius, by an exponential rate over time? That's an important concept. And maybe an illustration that doesn't have to do with climate change, but what I'm talking about between p-values, establishing a relationship between two objects, and then the effect of two objects. Let's take Tylenol. So when we run a study, when scientists run a study in a double-blind controlled trial, that's what it's called, they first they take the median temperatures of two test subject groups, one that has no Tylenol and one that has Tylenol, and they take the median temperatures of those. And then you take the mean of the group that does not have Tylenol and determine, oh, look it, most of them have a fever. And then you take the group that has been given Tylenol and you establish the mean on that curve as they do not have a fever. But now the important question is, given that there seems to be an effect that Tylenol has, how much is it lowering their temperature? Because if we measure it, and Tylenol only lowers the fever by 0.1%, that's the effect size. Yes, while Tylenol can lower your fever, it only lowers it by 0.1 degree. Its effect size isn't very big. So while Tylenol reduces fever, it's only reducing it, hypothetically in this situation, by 0.1 degree. Thus the importance of determining what is the effect size, and I think what Tucker Carlson is trying to ask here in a rather imprecise way. He's asking a precise question in a very nebulous way. But it's an important question. I just want to stress why I think it is, with a little bit of understanding of statistics and how double-blind controlled studies are done. Let's keep watching the interview. That was a long tangent on trying to explain what Tucker Carlson is getting at when he's asking about the contribution man is having on the effect of climate change. Let's keep watching.
The speed that climate change is happening is caused by humans. Instead of happening on timescales of millions of years, or let's say 15,000 years, it's happening on the timescale of decades and now years. Now, you know, I offered...
Wait, but hold on. But to what extent is human activity responsible for speeding that up? I mean, please be more precise.
If that's the number you want.
Okay, once again, they're dancing around this question. Bill Nye is saying 100%. Humans have been statistically shown, mankind has been statistically shown to accelerate the rate of climate change. And Tucker Carlson is asking, what is that acceleration rate given the constant? If we imagine the climate is going to automatically go like this, like a sine wave, it's going to get cold and hot and cold and hot. There's a little ice age in the 1500s. The Thames froze over. The climate naturally oscillates. Bill Nye, being reasonable, says, we can show man is contributing to the climate getting warmer, let's just say, hypothetically. I don't know the exact details, what is said in the latest IPCC report. Nonetheless, Bill Nye is arguing that humans, we can show, are a contributing factor, and Tucker Carlson is asking, how much? What is the multiplier effect of that natural oscillation? They're going around in circles here. Tucker Carlson is asking the same question again multiple times, particularly, I think, because he's aware that Bill Nye may not be able to give a very precise answer. This is a very difficult question to answer in a live television news spot when you have multivariable equations and statistical analysis, Bayesian theory throughout, to deliver easy, digestible facts about the rate at which humans are accelerating climate change or deaccelerating climate change or whatever you believe. It's hard to just generate those numbers off the top of your head. But let's keep watching.
Activity responsible for speeding that up. I mean, please be more precise.
If that's the number you want. Humans are causing it to happen catastrophically fast.
Okay, so at what rate would it have changed without human activity?
So at what rate would it have changed without human activity? Now, Tucker Carlson is asking, if we subtract humans out of the equation, what would have been the natural rate of change given the lack of Homo sapiens? Imagine a hypothetical where we're no longer in the Anthropocene and humans just, bye-bye, it's the second Noah's Ark. You're all sinners. What would the climate rate be then? Bill Nye, I think we'll see what he says.
Basically, the cycles of climate change, the last ice age we had was tens of thousands of years ago. So bear in mind that in ancient dinosaur days, there was more carbon dioxide. The world was warmer than it is now. There was an inland sea in what is now Wyoming. And I understand you have a member of Congress from Colorado, used to be underwater. And you go to Dinosaur National Mine, you can see it. Okay.
Yes.
But that's millions of years ago. The problem is
you just said it was tens of thousands.
That was the ice age. The rate.
That's a decent point by Tucker Carlson here. Tucker Carlson was actively listening. Bill Nye did say tens of thousands, not millions. Decent cheap shot, but fair enough.
Ice age. The rate. Okay. The rate is the problem. Now here's the thing. Half the people in the world live on sea coasts. As we get the ocean a little bit warmer, the ocean's going to expand, and people live on the seacoast are going to be displaced.
Okay, Tucker Carlson, I think it's fair to interrupt him here because Bill Nye is answering the question, what is the problem with climate change? Bill Nye is now giving, here's X results from climate change. The coastal sea levels are going to rise. Miami's going to be underwater. Manhattan's going to be underwater. I'm going to be living on a boat. But that's technically not what Tucker Carlson asked. Remember, he asked, the last question he put forth to Bill Nye was, what would have been the natural rate of climate change given the lack of humans? Not, what are the effects, or what should we be worried about with climate change? Tucker Carlson here, giving him the benefit of the doubt, is trying to keep the interview on track, but I think he's showboating it a little bit, particularly as he's circling this question so many times and trying to get emotional responses out of Bill Nye. Remember from a previous video, I talked about that in broadcast journalism in particular, we will circle around an interview subject because we're looking for emotional moments. We're looking for people to get angry, looking for people to get sad, looking for sound bites so they lose it a little bit, particularly in argumentative interviews. And my presumption here, I'm reading in, I don't know, Tucker Carlson's mind, but part of the reason why I think he's circling Bill Nye so frequently on this question is he's looking for Bill Nye to slip up.
But you're not answering my question. You're describing what will happen if this continues. And I'm asking you a simple question.
Yeah, okay, that's correct. Tucker Carlson caught where the conversation was being steered. He's trying to steer it back.
Hold on. I'm asking you a simple question about the rate of climate change.
The cameraman quickly zooms in just to see that he's in focus. That's I didn't catch that the first time. That's funny.
So
you said that it would be happening, but that rate has accelerated because of human activity. And I'm asking
the
you
word
very
accelerated
simply,
is an understatement. Okay, it's happening extraordinarily
I'm asking you a simple
fast.
question, and because the science is settled, I hope you can answer it in simple terms, which is, without human activity, how long would it have taken for us to reach this level of warmth in our climate?
It's not clear that it would have happened. In other words, humans have changed the climate so drastically that we almost certainly avoided another ice age. There would have been another ice age, ain't going to happen because of you and me. So the sooner we get to work on this problem, the problem.
When would it have happened?
When would the next ice?
Yeah.
Is that your question?
Without human activity, what would the?
It's like an interrupt Tucker Carlson for a second here. What he's trying to ask is, if given the presumption that the climate oscillates between warmth and cold, and there's been little ice ages throughout, okay, if we would have never reached our current global temperature, which is acknowledgeably warmer than it has in the past, well, then would we have been in a little ice age now? Would we have been headed towards a little ice age? What is the natural rate of oscillation within the climate? I believe that's what Tucker Carlson is asking, or trying to ask Bill Nye.
Look, here's the point that I hope our viewers can understand. I'm not in any way denying that the climate is changing. I'm utterly open to the possibility that the change is caused by man's activity. I'm merely calling into question your claim that all of this is settled, that we know precisely what is happening and why, and that anyone who asks pointed questions about it is a denier and ought to be imprisoned or shouted off the stage.
No, that was your word.
Okay, so now Tucker Carlson has shifted here. This is a classic effective broadcast journalism technique. So he circled Bill Nye a couple times on this one question, trying to ask a very precise question, saying, give me the effect size humans are having on the climate. I don't care that they're contributing to it. What's the effect size? And now that he's gone, or doesn't feel like he got the response he wanted from Bill Nye, he's pivoting immediately, hard 90-degree turn, like you're driving the car with your mate and you're going, oh, we're taking this exit right now. And he immediately goes into what he feels, Tucker Carlson feels, Bill Nye has said or implied about people that are suspicious about climate change are climate deniers. So now we're talking about something totally different. It's a good throw-off technique when you're interviewing somebody. When you change the course of the topic very fast and they're already flustered or angry, they can be once again more likely to respond emotionally heated when you pivot on a conversation really quick, because that emotional momentum follows them. So we'll see what happens.
No, that was your word. That's you guys. That's not my claim, and I really.
Would you like me to read your quote? That people who disagree with you ought to potentially go to jail. You said that.
Okay.
And I'm just saying,
Okay, did he actually say that, or did he not say that? It sounds like you paraphrased that, Tucker Carlson, but I don't know. I wish you put the actual quote up on the screen or sourced it, but we'll continue onward. Kind of a slimy move by Tucker Carlson there. I gotta be honest. When you kind of paraphrase or say this person is what they actually said, but then you don't actually present any evidence or source the quote that you're going to read on live television. Let's keep watching.
We can talk about that shortly, but
is it appropriate to jail the guys from Enron? Was it appropriate to jail the people in the cigarette industry who promised it wasn't addictive, etc.?
Okay.
Look, my only point.
Okay, great, but when and where did Bill Nye say this? You have to source it, otherwise it's kind of just cheap shots. You're putting words in Bill Nye's mouth. I'd really like to see it on screen as a viewer personally, somebody consuming news, as a journalist. Just reading it off a page that we, the audience, can't see is a little theatrical. But let's keep watching again.
The point is, shouldn't we be encouraging people to ask honest questions, which I am doing, and you don't seem to have the answers to those questions.
Okay, I got to disagree with you. I claim I do have the answers. Okay. So let me ask you this.
Okay, a great follow-up question for Tucker Carlson would have been, since Bill Nye claims to have the answers, what answers are you claiming to know? Give me 3, give me 1, give me 2. You obviously did not seem to know the answer to the effect size of man-made climate change. That would have been a great follow-up. He didn't take it. Let's keep watching.
Why aren't you concerned about it? Don't you have 4 children? Why aren't you concerned about climate change?
That's why I'm having you on. Look, you don't reach correct conclusions in science or politics or any other field unless you can ask honest answers without being shouted down by people like you.
But I know what you mean.
Okay, Tucker Carlson just makes a statement here. This isn't a question. He was responding to Bill Nye's question. Not that great of form. Tucker Carlson's getting a little emotional here. Tucker Carlson just made a statement. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of opinion, not even a statement of fact.
So,
no, I do mean I want to know what would happen without human activity. The climate change. No, it's a simple question. The climate is always changing. You've conceded that.
It's actually not a simple question, in all defense to Bill Nye. Remember, I'm not that actually interested in whose opinion is correct. I'm just interested in extrapolating what we're listening and watching to. What are these two people trying to do? What are the techniques they're using? What is the media vocabulary that they're doing? The dance they're doing?
You're saying that human activity has increased the speed. Increases the speed of that change. And my point is, what would the climate look like right now without human activity? At what point would it have warmed?
1750. Britain would not have changed during that period.
Okay, there's a question, again by Tucker Carlson. What would the climate have looked like without human activity? Bill Nye is actually giving a decent answer here.
Yes, Britain would not be very well suited to growing grapes as it is today. French winemakers would not be buying land to the north as they are now. People who plan to run ski resorts would still be able to do it in Europe. And so the climate change and the parasites...
You're using the language of politics. Look, you're not a scientist, as you know.
This is a statement, once again, by Tucker Carlson, a statement of opinion, not a statement of fact. You're using the language of politics. I don't know what that means. That, to my mind, and I'll speak personally, that seems like a cheap shot. You're using the language of politics is to strike down, demean, take away from whatever that person's saying. In my personal opinion, a better approach by Tucker Carlson would have been to say to Bill Nye, listen, you're painting very beautiful pictures of what the climate would look like, but I want hard statistical numbers. What is the temperature? What is the sea level? What is the rainfall? Those are the numbers I'm looking for, Bill Nye. Can you answer that question? Not, can northern England grow grapes now? But instead, Tucker Carlson just issues a statement saying you're using the language of politics, which is not, in my opinion, contributing to any sort of thoughtful discussion or interview. Let's keep watching.
You're not a scientist, as you know. You're a popularizer, and that's fine.
Okay, here Tucker Carlson once again continues on with statements of opinion. You're not a scientist, you're a popularizer. There is some debate here. I think some people would argue that you could be both. They're not mutually exclusive. I think if I'm correct, Bill Nye has a degree in engineering, but anybody can practice science. Most scientists, up until the modern university with modern biology degrees and physics degrees, all of 200 years ago, even then, Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, there have been Marie Curie, there have been plenty of scientists that didn't have degrees in science. That's not a qualification for practicing science. No more than having a degree is a prerequisite, a must prerequisite to be a scientist. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think Bill Nye can be a scientist and a popularizer of science. These are statements by Tucker Carlson, statements of opinion, not statements of fact, and he's not asking questions. So I'm going to give Tucker Carlson a kind of a lower D rating right now in this part of the interview.
But
So
I'm just saying,
you asked what it
to
would
the
be
extent
like
that you
without
prevent
human
people,
effect. Okay,
if you
ask
prevent
what it'd be
people from
like-
having an honest conversation, you're doing a grave disservice to science. Don't you think that?
So you asked.
Okay, here's a question by Tucker Carlson.
You asked how.
You prevent people from discussing honestly science, you're doing a grave disservice. Okay, this is a tricky question, but these kind of double negative questions where don't you think that?
You're doing a grave disservice to science. Don't you think that?
Give you an example. Don't you think you should not run over squirrels in your car? Yes, I think I shouldn't run over squirrels in my car. But you saying yes to that person's no makes it seem like you disagree with them, even if you agree with them. It's very hard to respond to double negative questions. Just on principle of rhetorical debate. If I was his debate advisor, I'd say, don't answer that question. Let's keep watching.
Or what would the climate be like if humans weren't involved right now? Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly right.
So the
At what
climate would
point
be
would it
like
have
a-
changed? And I'm just saying, you don't actually know because it's unknowable.
This
So
is
why
how
aren't you
long it
open
takes
to...
you.
Okay, now Tucker Carlson asserts a fact, but with no sourcing and no evidence. We're getting derailed here. Tucker Carlson started off strong. He was arguing very precise, specific questions. He was really given it. I would have given him an A+ in broadcast journalism skills, and it's degraded to Tucker Carlson making declarative statements of opinion that are pretty wild without any sourcing. They may be correct, but to make them live on broadcast television, just as I would hold Bill Nye to the requirement that he needs to provide evidence and sourcing any claims he's going to make, Tucker Carlson equally needs to provide sourcing and evidence to the claims he's going to make. Let's keep watching.
Because it's unknowable.
This
So
is
why
how
aren't you
long it
open
takes
to
you to interrupt
questions?
me. Okay, it takes you quite a bit less than 6 seconds. So the climate would be like it was in 1750. And the economics would be that you could not grow wine-worthy grapes in Britain as you can today because the climate is changing. The use of pesticides in the Midwest would not be increasing because the parasites are showing up sooner or the pests are showing up sooner and hanging around longer.
I think
The
that's
forest
probably all
in
true, but
Wyoming
you...
would not be overwhelmed by pine bark beetles as it is
Right.
because of climate change. That's how
So
the
much
world
of
would
this
be
you
different
don't
if it
know.
weren't for humans.
Statement again in fact, which is in reality an opinion by Tucker Carlson. It's likely Bill and I may not know this. He's just giving specific examples he's memorized. But Tucker Carlson has to show why Bill Nye doesn't know this or where he's incorrect.
Pretend that you know, but you don't know,
I've
and you
got to
believe
disagree
people
with you,
who
sir.
ask
I
you
really
questions.
have to disagree with you. I spent a lot of time with this topic.
I'm open-minded. You are not, and we're out of time.
I think Tucker Carlson kind of just shows his hand here and his own bias by saying there's so much of this you think you know, that you don't know, that you pretend to know, and then says I'm open-minded right after just declaring that he knows an individual is ignorant on a subject. Let's keep watching.
We're out of time, unfortunately.
So,
Thank you for joining
you
us.
guys are the mainstream media, and I can tell you why they're leaks. Because the president has created two
What?
factions in his administration. They don't like each other, so they leak. It's not from the outside, it's from the inside. Carry on, Mr. Carlson. I'm sure we will cross paths again.
That's a very ominous thing to say. I don't know what it means, but come back anytime.
Okay, that ending must have been, Bill and I must have been watching the A block of that show before they had him on. He was probably in some green room watching what Tucker Carlson had been talking about earlier in the show and was answering something to that sort, although it comes across weird in the interview. Nonetheless, that's a quick breakdown, or not so short, but moderately long, bordering on very long, perhaps dry and boring, breakdown of the Tucker Carlson v. Bill Nye interview. Hopefully, we discussed it in a fair and honest way. Not too many of my opinions were put out there. Just trying to discuss and analyze the vocabulary and the strategies that Tucker Carlson is using and trying to ask or ascertain information when talking with Bill Nye, where went right, where went wrong. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, a like. If you dislike this video, give it a like, smash subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.